Hi, this is Jonathan J. Now, if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, tap the notifications bell, and we will send you a notification every time a brand new video is released. Now, today we've got something for you that's very special. I've got an interview that I did in front of my private client group, so in front of a live audience, and we've got today for you the edited highlights of that video and that interview. And the interview is with Graham Carling. And Graham Carling actually hit the headlines in Scotland when he bought a business, a very well-known business, McGill's, out of administration, a £60 million a year construction business. Now, up to that point, Graham's background was in property. He'd put together over the years a substantial 300 property portfolio in Scotland. And then he shifted from buying properties to buying businesses, and he hasn't looked back. So sit back, take some notes, and enjoy the interview. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel. I've known Graham for a while, and he's had some incredible success with buying businesses. But it's not something you've always done, though, is it?
No. I'm Graham Carling, by the way. Pleased to meet you all. Thanks, Jonathan, for inviting me down today. My background before we were doing what we're doing now is we started buying residential properties right at the height of the property market crash back in 2008. We bought our first residential property. We didn't have anything. It was a buy-to-let market. Everyone was getting out. Times were bad. Money was tight in terms of the lending, but that was a great time to get in. There was opportunity and value in the market, and we felt it was a great time. That's my wife and I felt it was a great time to get involved in that. So for around 10 years there, from 2008 to 2018-19, and we're still doing it just now, we grew our property portfolio, starting with one property and none of our own money. We had to borrow money and use various financing schemes we're now one of the largest private landlords in Scotland. We've got over 300 units. And we haven't bought anything actually of any substance for a couple of years now, because we pivoted into another sector where we've seen value in the market. And that's in the building services sector.
So tell us about McGill's.
Yeah. And
how you bought that company. And that was out of administration, wasn't it?
Yeah. So McGill was a business, it was a Scotland top 500 company. It employed 400 odd staff, it turned over 65 million, and we looked at that. We decided that our property portfolio we needed to pivot and kind of expand what we were doing, and we were looking at various sectors that where we thought there was a value in the marketplace and we can go on a buy and build. We'd looked at McGill because it was one of the biggest companies in the area where I live, and we approached them to see if they would be interested in selling. We'd done that through their auditor, and that was just, we went to the company's house, pulled off their accounts, seen who their auditor was, we contacted them and we arranged a meeting. So I think they were a bit, who's this property guy? He wouldn't see about the building services sector. But anyway, it didn't get anywhere, but it was a business that had the platform, the name, the scope, the scale that would give us a good base to go on a buy and build in that sector. So we'd approached McGill, never went anywhere. Then over the next, and we were that busy with the property business, it didn't really take off until one day when we were meeting with our lawyers at a hotel, away to do a property transaction. Lo and behold, the McGill staff and administrators all descended upon this hotel like us sitting here today. They just all appeared, and that was McGill going into administration. So I think I said before, right place, right time, or wrong place, wrong time, depending which side of the fence you were on. We were there, and we were able to, our lawyers were with us, we were able to engage with the administrators, KPMG, straight away.
So how was it funded?
Well, that was, this one was, the way that we structured the deal, we dealing with the administrators, we were able to agree a deal on the building. So the building, for example, we had 90 days. We'd agreed, this is the price we'll pay, and it was a good deal on the property. Now remember, I'm a property guy, so I know this market. So we were buying the business, but we agreed that we would have 90 days to pay the money. So we were able to then buy the building, get it valued, get it revalued, and effectively fund the transaction through normal bank funding at the higher value, and we were in the game that way. So that was done. There was a little by way of stock and IP, so that was very little in terms of what was required to buy the business. The bulk of the value was in the building and some of the assets.
So you took ownership,
Yeah.
but you had the ability to pay later on.
Later. But what that acquisition done was it allowed us to go and do the next acquisition, because we already had the profile and the, if you like, we were in the game. So that allowed us to go and do another acquisition, which we did do just before Christmas, and then we subsequently done another one, just a bigger one, much bigger one, 30 million turnover, just in May.
Okay, so the one before Christmas,
Yep.
give us a profile on that business.
Profile, business, similar type, much smaller, 5 million turnover, 4.5, 5 million turnover, makes good EBITDA, good margin, 80 staff, in a similar type, they're just where we're based in Dundee, they're sort of on the outskirts of the city. So it gave us a bigger geographical area, but doing similar type works to McGill. All those smaller works, McGill's more on contract business for local authorities and councils and housing associations and all that stuff.
So how was your deal structured on this 4.5 million one?
Well, that was a beauty, that one, because we were actually buying it from the EOT. It's the first time that anyone's ever had done this before. An EOT employee ownership trust. So the owners had sold it to the employee ownership trust only 2 years before it. Now, there's never, certainly in Scotland has there been, because that's normally the exit, is the employee ownership trust. Never before had it been done where the employee ownership trust had sold out. So it was like, we're making a bit of history there, and I don't really like doing that. I like to see where we're going, but that was because of the profile of McGill. We were able to agree a deal with the employee ownership trust, and they weren't for sale, by the way. None of the businesses that we've bought have been for sale. None of the properties we've bought have been for sale, but we've always went knocking on doors.
So let me just explain that in a slightly different way, just in case there's no confusion.
Yeah.
So they weren't advertised for sale.
Yeah.
But there was an owner who wanted to sell, but it hadn't gotten to market.
Well, not necessarily. The last two deals we've done, the owners were not selling. We knocked on their door, cold call.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They weren't marketed.
They weren't marketed.
Yes.
Yes. They weren't marketed. They weren't actively thinking of selling. So they say that's the standard response. But then, as soon as we start talking to them, then you can gauge whether they're interested or not. So some of them are more motivated than others. But I have a very simple process in my mind. We're only 1,500 cold calls away from being a millionaire. So it's about going out there and actually going and doing the work. You've got to get out there because it doesn't just come to you.
So tell us how you found the 30 million one.
Well, we knocked on the door. Again, we just went and seen them. We made an appointment to go and see them. We were in the business. We just bought McGill. We were in the business for acquiring building services businesses. We'd done our research. We'd identified them as a business in an area that had a good name, good contracts, was making money, and all this stuff is available on Companies House. All this stuff's there. I mean, you just got to go find it. So we just sent, sent them an email, contacted them through LinkedIn, got to the right person, and went and seen them. We just jumped in the car and went and had a meeting with them. They weren't for sale. Dead cool. The usual response. No, we're not for sale. So, but we'd planted the seed. We'd arranged to speak to them in a few weeks. They came up to see us up at our offices, and it was into the negotiations. So we weren't thinking on selling, but what were you offering? All that stuff.
And how did it end up then? Yeah. What was the outcome in terms of did they want a reasonable amount, or did it?
Yeah, but again, the company had cash. It was a cash generating business, so that allowed us to go in and do where they got some money. They took money off the table immediately, and the one for the real sort of downside of this one was they missed the entrepreneur's relief window. You know, and we were up against it.
Right,
They bloody missed it. So it's not my money, you know. But for them, I felt devastated.
Did that change in April?
It was straight away to budget. Was it March?
March, yeah.
And they missed it because of certain things that were going on at their end. So it cost them a good few quid because it was a big deal. They were getting a load of money out of this. But anyway, the structure of the deal was the business had money that paid for the initial consideration, and there's deferred consideration agreements over a 3-year period.
What is it that is assisting you in doing this consistently, successfully?
Well, it's all we do. You know, I don't run the companies. We have people. We're buying. I bought McGill as a distressed business because of the value we've seen in it in terms of the platform. It give us the platform and the exposure, if you like, to go on. But we're only really interested in buying good, well-run businesses that we can see what we're buying, we can see what we're getting. And with a good either first management team or second tier management team that can continue to run it and operate the business, that want to be part of a bigger group where there's potential synergies and improvements in sales and costs, we can make some. But that's not vital. What's vital to us is the businesses are good, well-run businesses and well-known local brands in their own name. So we have a really clear plan. So what's assisting us is we have a really clear plan. And that's all we do.
So okay, so if we were to chunk this down into steps.
Yeah.
So step number 1, clear plan.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Step number 2.
Step number 2. Well, when you're operating at the level that we're operating at, with our range is anything between 15 and 50 million revenue. So we've done the first couple, that got us going. We've done a 30 million revenue. Our range is 50. We don't look at the smaller ones now. So to do that, you go from I to we. So you need a good team of people. We have a great board. We have a board of directors. There's 6 of us, a couple of non-execs, and a good external advisors. So at the level we're operating at, it can't be the Graham Carling show. It's our team and our board, and that for me is fundamental when you're operating at the higher level. It goes from I to we, and that certainly helps us. So a clear plan. There's a board. You're credible, so they've got to be credible people in your team, and credible advisors as well as you.
Okay, so so that's the second step. What's the third step? What's the third component of success doing this?
I'm saying it's dead simple. Really, you've got to get out there and get deal flow. You know, so you've got your team. You've got to go out there and get the deal flow. And that's where we probably spend 80-90% of our time is on deal flow. It's hard, it's uncomfortable, but that's where it's at. Because if you've got good deal flow, deal origination, if you have that, then you can just say, next. I'm not interested in that one. We'll have this one, and you can play one off against the other. And when you're really active, you really quickly become. We know good companies and bad companies in this sector, and I've only been doing this in this sector really for the last sort of 2 years. Really.
So you become very knowledgeable about the sector.
Yeah.
You hear the reputation of some of the businesses.
Yeah.
You start to. You become part of a network.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you do quickly pick that up. You can see companies that are just trying to drive revenue. And they've got smaller profits, and there's loads within our sector. Turning over 60, 70 million, making nothing. Make nothing because they're driving the revenue, and so we don't touch them. We're really looking at, we have a really clear sort of ratio, revenue to EBITDA that we're looking to acquire.
Any final questions?
Bigger the better, deal-wise for you?
I think so. Yep, I think so.
Faster?
Do they kind of move? I just think it's you can do the same process on a big deal as a small deal. So why would I do a small deal? That's just me. If you start small, fine. I wish I'd have started bigger.
Really?
I do. We started one property because people were terrifying us. It's not small, if it's so. You need to go through the pain. You need to, you need to fail a few times. You need to take the pain and the hits. Do that fast. I'm getting on a bit now. I've not got time for small deals. We need to be moving.
That was absolutely fantastic. A round of applause, I think. Thank you very much. That's really good. Thank you.